Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and having learned quite a few things from, through, and from within human interactions, and having pursued and completed my master's in business administration and in clinical psychology, and having had the chance to work as a counselor and as a therapist over the last few years, I today wish to talk about how and why we unconsciously, unknowingly sabotage the love that we seek, that we desire. Now, the important word to remember over here is unconscious, is unknowingly. Because quite naturally, had it been in our awareness, conscious awareness, we either would not be doing that or we would be writing a different narrative about that. We would be changing our mindset about it to be able to then frame a different narrative about it as well. It is also important to notice, to be aware of, that only when we are aware of something can we decide to change something about it. But when it's in the unconscious, in the part of us that is not consciously aware of it, it's naturally quite difficult to change the mindset, to be able to change the beliefs or vice versa, and then be able to write our own narrative about it, or to be able to give it the direction that we wish to deliberately, consciously give it. Now, for most of us, when we were growing up, when we were kids, or even before we physically took birth into this world, our narrative of the world and thereby the emotions with regards to those narratives were already getting framed and formed right from the time when we were conceived. Which is why I can definitely say with a lot of certainty over here that when the gynecologists say, or when the doctors tell the mother or the family members that please try not to take stress, that please try to be happy, that please try and take as much rest as you possibly can, that please ensure that the woman, that the household is stress free. Please ensure that there is harmony in the environment that the mother or the pregnant lady is living in, is essentially because the outside environment that this lady, the pregnant lady, is interacting with, is engaging with, directly impacts the developing, the growing fetus, the baby. The baby catches all of the emotions of this mother, and to that baby, those emotions then becomes its normal baseline. So if the mother is in a joyous state, in keeping with her surroundings, in keeping with her relationships, in keeping with her family dynamics, the natural baseline of this growing baby is that of joy. However, if the mother feels stressed out or distressed, in keeping with her familial equations, in keeping with her relationship with her husband, in keeping with her surroundings, the baseline emotion as it's absorbed by the child is that of stress, is that of distress. And if nothing changes about this particular environment that this child is going to be born into, quite naturally, quite logically as well, this baseline of the child does not change. For it is this baseline that will help the child adapt and survive in keeping with its environment that it's born into. And this is something I can clearly say, like I said earlier, for I have seen my own mother counsel all of her patients and the family members when they come to her, either with regards to wanting to get pregnant, with regards to wanting to conceive a child, an heir, or when they've already conceived one and they come to her for regular checkups because she works in the capacity of a gynecologist. Now, coming back to where we started from, which is how we unconsciously, unknowingly sabotage the love that we wish for ourselves, that we desire for ourselves, quite unknowingly, quite unconsciously, because our subconscious and our unconscious works on repetition, functions through repetition. And quite naturally, it's got to do so because it functions automatically. And anything that works automatically quite naturally has to repeat itself so many times over and over and over again that it so becomes familiar, right down to muscle memory, that it doesn't have to think through when it's making a choice or when it's doing something or when it's saying something. It's habitual. Now, since all of our subconscious is compulsive repetition, it will quite naturally keep generating the same result time and time and time again, because it is churning out the same thing over and over and over again. And if it's become almost like second nature and second skin and like the muscle memory, quite naturally it is hard and difficult to change, because changing anything requires us to first become aware of it. Secondly, any kind of a change requires a lot of hard work, at least in the beginning. And that beginning, when we're trying to do something new, can extend from a few days to a few months to even a few years, which is why it's also said that habits die hard. And anything that we have repeatedly done time and time and time again will naturally result in lesser errors. And to a human psyche, to a human being, and its social implications, making errors or making mistakes or being wrong can come with a lot of backlash, can come with a lot of criticism, can come with a lot of embarrassment, can come with a lot of shame, can come with us being labeled as imperfect, can come with somebody being labeled as irresponsible as well. And none of us wish to hear these things about our own selves, which is why we keep repeating what we have always repeated, for it comes with lesser chances of errors, though it might not give us the thing that we truly desire for ourselves. It might not help us connect in the ways we truly desire for ourselves. So, having mentioned so much about the subconscious, it quite naturally repeats, picks up what it has already known, what it is familiar with. And if at one point in time, when we were little babies, if we had to earn our love, we would find ourselves in relationships, maybe one or maybe a few, wherein we keep picking up partners unconsciously, unknowingly, wherein we'll still be trying to earn their love, to earn their affection, to earn their acknowledgement, to earn their appreciation. If at one point in time we did not feel worthy of love and belonging and appreciation and nurturing and caretaking, and we needed to earn that worth by proving our worthiness, we will keep finding ourselves unknowingly picking up partners wherein we will be trying to prove our worthiness by either being very hardworking, overly helpful, by being super successful, by being over responsible, and not necessarily responsible, but rather overly dutiful, overly obliged, by overextending ourselves, even when we do not wish to do so, but nonetheless doing it with the added weight of obligation and the feeling of resentment, because we are trying to earn our worth, which we had learnt at one point in time when we were growing up, when our foundation was being laid, when the baseline of that foundation was getting laid. was being imprinted. Now, if as a child we felt abandoned, either quite literally, physically abandoned, like how it's shown in the movie Dear Zindagi, wherein this grown up kid, Alia Bhatt, much later tells her parents that how could you leave me and go to pursue your own dreams? How was I not important for you to even be considered? And then, even after leaving me, even after abandoning me, when you had left me with your own mother, how did you come and pick me up without my consent when I had started to bond with my grandmother just because I had failed class 2 examination, which had caused a lot of shame for you? And since you did not have the capacity to address that shame, to feel that shame, to deal with that shame, and to heal that shame, you just came and picked me up from the one person that I'd started bonding to, from the one person that I'd started connecting with, in order to run away from the shame that you felt. And through this, we can also understand, if we really look at it, if we truly understand it, that she not only felt abandoned, that she not only felt unsafe in her closest relationships, but she also felt that she was never the priority. She also felt that she was not worthy of being prioritized. That she also felt a lot of shame, for she had felt unworthy because of her parents' shame when she had failed in class 2. Wherein at one point in time, in one of the scenes in this movie, she also goes on to say that I exit my relationships, that I end up my relationships very soon. They feel too much. The expectations are a little too much. They feel a little too close. And because her nervous system had gotten wired early in her life for love from a distance, love from afar, despite her wanting to have a close relationship, a safe and secure relationship, unknowingly she was repeating what she had experienced in her own childhood. Maybe a lot of criticism which resulted in a lot of shame at some points in time. Maybe a little too closeness which felt unfamiliar to her. Maybe caretaking by somebody which again felt unfamiliar to her, which is why friendships did not feel too much to her, because friendships gave her the space with regards to when she wanted to be close and with regards to when she wanted those people to be afar at her convenience. We can also see the same thing or a similar sentiment being expressed by Anushka Sharma in one of the movies called as Jab Tak Hai Jaan, wherein she goes on to express to Shah Rukh Khan that I exit the relationship, that I leave the relationship before they get a chance to leave me. It's very telling about her growing up years, wherein before anybody could leave her, which she was unable to cope with as a child, she leaves the relationship first so that she doesn't have to deal with the pain of going through the pain itself if somebody were to leave her. And yet, on the other hand, we can also see through another movie, Dil Dhadakne Do, wherein Priyanka Chopra, as Anil Kapoor's daughter and Shefali Shah's daughter, stays in the relationship way too long, far too long, even when it's making her miserable, even when it's making her unhappy, because she has learned from her own parents' marriage and through some of the conversations that she's had with her parents that it's not so easy to leave, it's not so easy. That you can't be treating marriage like a joke and wanting to leave it just because you're unhappy in it or just because you're miserable in it. So it is the social stigma with regards to what it will entail for her and for the family, with regards to her character and with regards to the family's reputation, that she stays far too long, wherein she needed to know when's the right time to quit. And the parallel to that, which I can think of at this point in time, is like saying that at one point in time, I had picked up the habit of smoking. Now, understanding why I had picked it up in the first place, what were the advantages that it gave me at one point in time, to now being able to understand, to reflect if it's now the right time for me to quit. Quit the habit is a much healthier choice rather than saying that just because I picked it up at one point in time, I have to keep going at it. I have to keep going with it, even when it's unhealthy for me, even when it's causing distress, even when it's giving me unhappiness, and even when it's making me miserable. Now, smoking was just a parallel that I had drawn in order to help us understand that realizing or understanding when to quit might also be a trademark of wisdom, a trademark of genius. Like Shah Rukh Khan had said in the movie Dear Zindagi, as a counselor, as a therapist, that knowing when to quit and why to quit is genius. Now we can also understand that apart from the social stigma that she could very likely face if she were to quit on the relationship, on her marriage, it was also the fact that her mother had stayed in a marriage that was highly dysfunctional, that her parents had stayed in the marriage that was highly dysfunctional, that was emotionally abusive towards both the parents, that was emotionally and physically not fulfilling for both the parents, that did not bring them happiness but rather created more misery and unhappiness, and thereby a lot of resentment within both of them, was also a template that she had grown up with, wherein the baseline narrative was, or the belief system was, that quitters are losers. And maybe their sense of belonging, their sense of getting love, was by being a winner, whatever that winning took, whatever that winning demanded from them, whatever that winning looked on the surface. And maybe having the discernment to know when to quit, to know when something isn't working, isn't aligned with our values, isn't aligned with how we feel and how we think and how we speak about it, to then make a conscious choice about it, might just be the biggest belief changer, the mindset changer, and thereby the decision changer of our lives. Or even having the discernment that if you're repeating the same things over and over and over again, in a way repeating the past, creating the past over and over and over again, having the same results over and over and over again, might just call us to reflect in, to do the work of repair. Quite literally, repairing the equation, repairing the belief system, repairing the mindset, not in a repeated way, but differently, might be something that we can think about, that we can consider. Without actually having to quit on the equation of the relationship, on the framework of the relationship, but rather by changing the internal wirings of that particular framework so that it starts to light up a little differently, or maybe a lot differently. Now, through the movie Dil Dhadakne Do, we'll also realize that Priyanka Chopra's marriage to her husband Rahul Bose looked very similar, had very similar feelings as that of her parents' relationship, Anil Kapoor and Shefali Shah. And if we look a little closer, we'll also notice that the character of Rahul Bose was very, very similar to the character of Anil Kapoor to a large degree. And in a way, if we understand her subconscious or the family's subconscious, collective subconscious, had picked up, like the subconscious does, the familiar thing that it has always known. And of course, that happened unconsciously, subconsciously. But there's also a part of us that wants to have closure, that actually wants to grow up and outgrow the childhood that it had to live through. But in order to complete the loop and even outgrow the loop needs to be created all over again, which is what exactly the subconscious does. And hence, she picks up, or the entire family picks up, a similar partner, similar to her dad, to recreate the similar dynamics, to then outgrow it towards the end of the movie, to then even be able to outgrow her beliefs, to vocalize herself, to express her needs and her wants and her desires, which she has not done before, to create the connections within her family and for her future that she consciously, deliberately wishes to create for herself, that she is mindfully choosing for herself. So maybe it's time that we start reflecting on what we keep creating and recreating, on what we keep trying to avoid and unfortunately still recreating the same, or what we keep chasing and still never getting it, or feeling that the chase never ends, or maybe even reminding ourselves that the fun is in the chase and therefore spend our entire lives just chasing the same old, same old. And if we keep chasing the same old, or keep repeating the same old without resolving it, the question to ask is, how are we ever going to outgrow it? How are we ever going to resolve it? So let's first become aware of our own patterns that we keep repeating, that we keep replaying, without having a different result, quite naturally so, without having the desirable result that we want for ourselves. And only when we become aware, by having observed our own patterns, by having observed our own repetitions and their results, that we'll be able to come to some understanding as to why we keep recreating them. What are the emotional imprints? What are the beliefs as a result of those emotional imprints that we are trying to accomplish by either chasing them or avoiding them and somehow sabotaging them? Let's first become aware so that at least we start coming to a conscious choice point rather than the habitual loop of recreating the same and thinking that I've made the choice, while as the reality might be that our habits, the habitual loops, the old patterns might have made the choice for us. So let's first work on getting aware of it, which helps us get aware of our own emotional blueprints, the blueprints of our love, which led to the formation of certain belief systems, to then be able to outgrow them, if we at all wish to do so. Let's try and reflect on all of those aspects, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contextual content of these videos, please do like, share, and subscribe.